The views expressed in this podcast are not those of the producer or the production company.
Hello, welcome to our first episode of our mini-series, Mini Mathe, which is basically like our normal episodes, but condensed down and really just on one topic. I know that Mini Mathes might sound like a cereal, but the only thing cereal about me is the way I kill people. That is a joke. I am not a serial killer. You have to kill 3 or more people to be considered a serial killer. Anyway, I'm just going to leave you on that note. So today, our topic for the very first episode of Mini Mathe is Fashwave. You heard me right, Fashwave, which first time I ever heard of it, I thought it was like a gay wave, like gay surfers. Like, can you imagine a gay surfing brand called Fashwave? Fashwave! It'd be like glittery pink surfboards. But no, Fashwave is fascist techno music, and they also call it Trump wave. And so I have here a Vice article called Trump Wave and Fashwave are just the latest disturbing examples of the far right appropriating electronic music. There's that word, appropriating. If I had a nickel for every time the word appropriating came up in a liberal article, well, I'd have enough money to actually be famous off this podcast. So let's see. It says producers are turning synthwave. Okay, so I guess that's the actual name of the genre, synthwave. Producers are turning synthwave and vaporwave into fascist propaganda. Vaporwave just sounds like somebody who surfs and like tries to vape while surfing. Hey bro, look at me. Vaporwave into fascist propaganda, but history is full of similar examples. Okay, I just want to stop right there and talk about how actually prior to recording this, me and my producer actually looked up Fashwave, and we listened to a little bit of it, and I'm not entirely sure what that means, trying to use vaporwave and all that for fascist propaganda, because it literally had no words. I mean, the only thing I'd say that was possibly propaganda about it was the actual video behind it. But I wouldn't even consider that propaganda. I mean, it didn't have any posters or slogans. It was literally just pictures of European art. But it's really funny. Some of these comments on here are just like somebody said, a vision of the future, a genre called microwave. Hee hee. Cooking all the degenerates. And this says, what's another one? Amazing work. I like listening to Fashwave when I feel depressed from too much stress. It really can calm your nerves down. This is also great if you have to do homework or study for a test. Fashwave must be the music of the future to replace the Jewish degeneracy of our modern times. Okay. Evropa wave. That's funny. Oh, here's a good one. The modern art is a pure trash, but this video contains one of the most modern genre of music and scenes, from sculptures who are incredible because show our true identity. It's our past. Instead of past. Finally, someone managed to merge the modern with the traditional without going wrong. Love Fashwave. So people think that this genre of music, which doesn't necessarily sound distinguishable from regular vaporwave, they somehow think that this is somehow connected to European tradition. Okay. Last February, a website called Rave News reported that leading vaporwave producers were gathering in Montreal for an emergency summit to discuss creeping fascism in the scene. Vaporwave, an electronic subgenre conceived on the web in the early 2010s, is perhaps best described as post-apocalyptic mall music. What? Okay. When I hear post-apocalyptic mall music, I just think like, crawl out through the fallout, baby. Where they drop that bomb from the Fallout movies. Not movies, video games. That'd be cool if they had a Fallout movie. Anyway, with producers like Macintosh Plus and Saint Pepsi, now Skylar Spence, warping Muzak, smooth jazz, and dated adult contemporary into airless warbling soundscapes. It was a progressive-leaning genre that seemed to satirize consumer culture. Oh, so vaporwave is a joke. I always assumed it was transparent through my work that I leaned left. Vaporwave pioneer Ramona Xavier, the woman behind Macintosh Plus, told Thump. But now, according to Rave News, vaporwave was mysteriously attracting fascists. Woo! The article's comment section was quickly swarmed by neo-Nazis eager to defend their interest in vaporwave. The National Socialists who lived in the time of Hitler were big fans of Richard Wagner, one wrote, but in modern times it is appropriate for us to turn to modern music. There was just one problem. The report, like anything else on rave news, was fake news. No anti-fascist meeting of vaporwave artists had actually taken place. Okay. The point of the onion-like satire wasn't clear, but knowingly or not, rave news had hit on a real trend. On SoundCloud and Bandcamp, so it started off as a joke, but it turned out to be true. So the whole idea of Fashwave was originally supposed to be a joke, and then it turned out to be a real thing, and they actually hit the nail on the head. That's crazy. On SoundCloud and Bandcamp, self-identified fascist musicians really have appropriated vaporwave, along with synthwave, a genre that nostalgically recapitulates the soundtracks of early video games like Sonic the Hedgehog and 80 movies like Blade Runner and Halloween. I've never actually seen Blade Runner, believe it or not. Although, you know what? Coincidentally, you probably could have renamed Halloween to Blade Runner and it would have been the same shit. He runs around with a blade. My producer is just looking at me like... Anyway. Today's fascists have stamped synthwave and vaporwave with a swastika and swirled them together to concoct a new electronic music subculture called Fashwave. The Fash stands for fascism, obviously. And another related microgenre called Trumpwave. The aesthetic of both might be summed up as triumph of the will on a Tron grid. What? Okay. Fashwave is almost entirely instrumental and wholly unoriginal. If it weren't for the jarring track titles Demographic Decline, Team White, Death to Traitors, to cite a few of Fashwave artists' Xerius, you might not be able to tell the difference between Fashwave and the microgenres from which it draws inspiration. Occasionally, though, a track will interrupt its celestial synth atmospherics, or arcade-like 8-bit bloops with a sample of Adolf Hitler ranting at a rally, or of President Trump's speeches spliced together to make him boom. The heroes are those who kill Jews. The effect is a hammy nightmare. Think Jane Fonda leading one of her 80s exercise routines at a Nuremberg rally. Fashwave has become propaganda for the neo-fascist movement known as the alt-right, a term that originated on America's far-right fringe in the early 2010s. Proponents of the loosely configured movement tend to reject political correctness, trade, immigration, Islam, feminism, the left, globalism, and establishment conservatism. Shit, I oppose most of those things. Does that mean I'm alt-right? Anyway, which are also... I did not have sexual relations with that fringe movement. Anyway, more or less the targets of Trump, and after his takeover much of the Republican Party, like fascism through the decades, the alt-right is shot through with contradictions. Many of its followers disavow racism, homophobia, and anti-Semitism, but its underlying motive is still that of the fringe from which it sprang: white ethno-nationalism and authoritarianism. Okay, I'm definitely not a member of the alt-right then, because I am not about that authoritarianism. With Trump's election and the spread of far-right parties in Europe, the alt-right is on the ascent. Like its Nazi and Italian fascist forerunners, it wants to infiltrate and remake popular culture, and Fashwave, with its sonically inoffensive, largely lyric-free instrumentals, is the first fascist music that is easy enough on the ears to have mainstream appeal. I feel like this is the modern equivalent of that big scare back in the day where parents were afraid of their kids to listen to rock music, because if you played the rock music backwards, it would say, like, very loosely, Hail Satan, but you couldn't really tell unless you tried really, really hard to listen to it. That's what I feel like this is, because there's no actual message other than the name of the songs. There was another one we saw on YouTube just called It's Okay to Be White, which I'm going to say something super controversial here. It is okay to be white. My producer is telling me that right now our ratings have plummeted, like the moment that I just said that. As a matter of fact, I'm now $5,000 in debt. On 4chan's /poll/ I don't know how you pronounce that. The web's unofficial alt-right headquarters. No, it's not. It's okay. Posters take frankly of Fashwave as a trap to make our ideas seem friendly and approachable, as one user wrote. Another warned that the slogans on Fashwave-related artworks need to be softened for wider consumption. Careful, guys. The phrase needs to be oblique and vague, not direct gas the kikes. Memes. Try some subtlety. Okay, I think it's great that we have our own culture, even if it's small, says alt-right leader Richard Spencer. For those of you who don't know, Richard Spencer is the self-proclaimed leader of the alt-right and the European ethno-state movement. Although, if you listen to what he says, don't get me wrong, I think he's an asshole, because he does say a lot of really fucked up shit. But he has some good points, such as why is it that it's always the white countries that are expected to accept immigrants from other places, and to be open-minded when it comes to these incoming cultures. But if white people try to move to a non-white country, they're expected to not appropriate, but to conform and to do everything in that culture accurately, as to not be offensive. But anyway, that's a different topic for a different time. With its tiny musical quality and tiny scope, however, Fashwave is a long way from executing any real cultural power, and might flame out any day. Until BuzzFeed brought the music into mainstream awareness with an article in December, it was virtually unknown beyond alt-right circles. There are only a handful of major Fashwave artists, and they're not headlining any fascist raves or military parades. Instead, they're toiling in the internet's depths, getting a few thousand listens for every track. Leading Fashwave producers Cyber Nazi's two biggest hits, Right-Wing Death Squads and Galactic Lebensraum, cracked 50,000 YouTube views. Respectable, but hardly a cultural Reichstag fire. That makes me wonder if maybe we'd get more views if we tagged Fashwave into our videos.
We can do it for this one.
Okay. This will have the most views because people will be like, oh, Fashwave? And we'll have like the first 30 seconds of the video be like our own homemade Fashwave, and people will be like, oh my god, this is really good, and then boom, welcome to Mini Mathe. The only thing about cereal about this is killing people, or whatever the heck that tagline I had at the beginning of the episode was. So anyway, yeah, I that's pretty much it. Basically, they're taking vaporwave and whatever that other genre of wave music was, and they're just tagging on, not even necessarily really racist. I mean, Gas the Kikes was a little bit messed up, but the rest of them wasn't so awful. So yeah, that has been this episode of Mini Mathe, which is our mini-series for Mathe, A Political Statement. I hope you enjoyed listening, and you'll hear more content from us in general, whether it's full episodes or Mini Mathe episodes. Have a wonderful day, and stay alt-right. I'm kidding.
Thank you for listening to Mathe, A Political Statement. We'd like to thank some of our listeners for donating to help improve our show. Logo design created by Kyle Christ. For more of Kyle's work, visit karmicclothing.com. For all sources, our donation page, our social media sites, and more, see the description down below.